I'm Monsignor Russell Terra, born in Sacramento and was stationed in Sacramento for many years. And one of the things that I always used in Sacramento was the Catholic Social Service of Sacramento, because very often in confession or in counseling, we would have people that were beyond my expertise. And consequently, when I got up to Reading, it was the same scenario, except now I was the pastor, and there was no one to refer anybody to who needed more than I could give them simply as a priest. They needed someone with background in counseling, marriage counseling, and sometimes personal counseling that was, deeply psychological. So I got the idea that we should set up a Catholic social service because that was much of what they did in Sacramento County.
Well, the priests used to always get together as a group in that particular area, and Monsignor Terra was probably the driving force there, and then there was a priest over in Our Lady of Mercy, Father Tom Kerrigan. So those two were in Reading, and then I was in Anderson. So that area, as you know, sort of runs together a little bit. And so we would often talk about how we were very busy with many things, and also that there was a need for counseling and certain things that we probably couldn't provide, and that maybe if we had a trained counselor, maybe if we had a centralized place where people could go for either counseling or help. So we talked about that on and off, and eventually, one day, Monsignor Terra said, I think it's time for us to bite the bullet and do something.
We got together, and I realized that if this was going to endure, we needed to have something larger than the local priest or one of the local priests in charge for a couple of reasons. Number one, at that time, clergy often decided to give their own bent to whatever it was going to be, but then when they were replaced as a pastor, the new pastor might not like what he was doing at all and might disband the whole organization. So we set it up basically as lay-oriented, but a deacon could serve on the staff as part of the board of directors. And so I knew with that we would have certainly good clergy representation, but not one of the pastors or a priest. And they set up a lay board, and I believe Pat Majeski was our first director. What has been good about that, they set up housing. They've worked at really trying to help the poor. And one of the visions we had is we really needed that poor people were going to be people that could most benefit by it because they had no income to seek the counseling. And as they got more board members and greater resources, they realized they could do much more than simply counseling.
It was obviously just living here that there were a lot of difficulties that people had just existing. And Monsignor Terra and also Father Mike Kiernan down in Anderson recognized that same issue. We knew, they knew, that more help was needed. And I was part of that very small group that became the first board of directors of Northern Valley Catholic Social Service.
We opened up with Pat Majeski, our only staff member, a volunteer secretary. Dave Gassman donated carpeting for our office, and that was us. We were in business. Back in the first or second year that we were open, we had the opportunity to acquire Pine Street Place, which was an old motel. It was 10 units. And we began by trying to provide housing for mostly the young moms and their children.
It was an amazingly beneficial thing to the community, and I think that was shown by the rapid growth of it because it was surely a felt need in the community. And of course, it reached out to people of all faiths or no faiths. There's never any question in any Catholic charities, Northern Valley or anybody else, who you are or where you're coming from or do you belong to any church or anything like that.
We are now in 6 counties where we started with just 1. We had just 1 employee and a secretary, and now we have nearly 200. That's a marvelous amount of activity that exists now in these 6 counties.
First of all, which the people that started it realized that there was a need for an agency of this type. I don't think anybody understood the size of the need, and you know, we've done tremendous work, but we've really only scratched the surface. The agency's been reactive and resilient to the emergencies we've been through with the fires and the pandemics. It's very, very flexible. So it seems to be a vibrant organization full of people that want to do good things and are available and ready to do it. The other thing it brought out, I think, is that the number of people who are willing and able to contribute to the goal of Northern Valley Catholic Social Services. Lots of people, you know, Catholics, non-Catholics, all sorts of people share the vision of the agency. And finally, it has attracted its staff. I mean, who would have thought that there would be this many competent, capable, and qualified people who were interested in doing the work of the agency? And we've have, since the beginning, had a tremendous staff, which is really chiefly responsible for the success of the agency. It's just the enthusiasm of the people who work for the agency.
The one thing I've often heard is the great respect that people are treated with when they go in. Now, treats you with respect, and how can we help you, and so on, so on. And the person feels accepted.
When you encounter someone who's had nothing but troubles through their life, we always used to describe the clients as having been put down, beat down, and let down by every adult in their life up to now. And so they finally encounter an adult who's somewhat their age, showing them a whole new way of being, whole new possibilities.
I've often said to counselors, individual counselors, you know, you do such a wonderful thing, because if somebody is depressed or, you know, in a real bad place in their life, and you can meet with them over a period of weeks or months and help them to a new understanding of who they are personally, or with their family, or with their spouse, or whatever, with their work, with their faith even, boy, that is, you know, just, you can't pay enough for that.
It seems to me what we're doing with NVCSS is doing precisely what Jesus asked us to do what we call the corporal works of mercy, to take care of the poor, to take care of the disadvantaged. And that really is our mission, so that we can continue, and we think we're doing this, to transform lives and inspire hope, so that lives will be transformed.
We are Northern Valley Catholic Social Services. It's a Catholic agency. I think, and this is Catholic charities at work. So obviously we don't distinguish who we serve. They're all people that need service, and it kind of a tribute to the church and to the members of the church that they have this drive to do social good. I mean, we've experienced it all over the place, and we've taken a lead in that. And obviously there's been lots of people from all faiths and all organizations who want to share in that. So it's rewarding in that way.
If I think I hadn't been with the agency during these 35 years, my life would probably look pretty empty and probably feel pretty empty.
Kind of a fun thing to do, but it's also been very rewarding to see the agency grow and succeed and prosper, if you will. 35 years later, I think the foundation is there for another 100 years.
What we've done has been very good, but there's so much more to do that we're not done yet, and we'll never, I guess, accomplish everything we like to do. I like to remember what Mother Teresa said when they asked her, well, how do you, you're in Calcutta, how do you expect to help 3 million people? And she said, one at a time.
it reinforced my belief that the people are the church and not the priest and not the ministers, but the people are the church. And the more that they can get involved, men and women, any ethnic group, the better we are as a community for that, and the better we are as a church and as the people of God.
So I would just say Northern Valley needs to keep building on what it has, and I would encourage the community to get more and more involved. I know that Bishop Soto and all the previous bishops have enormously appreciated what has been done. And I would also say that Northern Valley is an example of, not only for Catholic groups in the diocese, but I would say it's seen as a tremendous blessing and enormously successful, and professionally, but also with great love and care. It's just seen as something that does enormous work. So I would just say community, Northern Valley, staff, volunteers, everybody, keep on going and don't stop, and you're going to be needed for another 100 years and maybe more. And I ask God's blessing upon Northern Valley Catholic Social Services and the openness and kindness and the fact that it brings people together of all faiths, and that everybody who is made in the image and likeness of God, whatever their religion or even no religion, that all of them, the door is open. They're welcomed and loved and respected and treated with great dignity. So God bless Northern Valley and all you do.